Hi everyone, we'll get started in just about a little less than 3 minutes or so. If you are logging in right now, we will likely need a towel or a blanket, something you can sit on or roll up into a tube-like shape towards maybe the end of practice, or if you want to sit up on something. I also recommend you can use a beach towel or a regular towel if you don't have a throw blanket, and then a bolster or a pillow-like object, something like a couch cushion could be really nice, and then blocks. So anything that could be a nice sturdy structure for your hands to rest on. Those are always a recommendation if you're joining practice. Whether you end up needing them or not is one thing, but at least having them within reach in case you do. And we'll get started shortly. Thank you for joining. We'll get started in a couple of minutes. If you're just joining us, welcome. Some of the things that you might do while you are getting situated and getting ready for practice is a lot of practices start in a seated posture, not necessarily every practice, but a lot of them do. So you might come to a seated position and you might give yourself a little bit of a wiggle. But again, we'll get officially started in just a couple of minutes. But if you're looking for something to do, and maybe even shrug your shoulders, maybe turn your head side to side, just giving yourself a little bit of a wiggle, pre-wiggle warm up before we officially begin. But thank you for joining us, and we'll get started shortly. So we'll get started in about 30 seconds or so, but welcome everyone. I'm Casey Tarian with Blue Point Yoga. This is our second week of our 6-week series of free yoga basics. If you are new to Blue Point, be sure to subscribe and like our videos so you can get notified of when our videos are coming up and any other content that we post. You can also go back and look at last week's iteration of our yoga basics class to practice with us. Tonight, as always, I highly recommend a beach towel or a blanket, a throw blanket that you can roll up if you'd like towards the end of practice, a bolster-like object, which could be a couch cushion, a pillow. If you have a bolster, awesome, not required to have one. You can also use a rolled up towel or blanket as well. The other items that you probably will want tonight are blocks or something sturdy like a food box, like a cereal box, or a sturdy cardboard box could be really helpful, or even a dictionary-sized books. It's something that you can put your hands on and won't slide, so you don't want anything like paperback books. Those will not be helpful. And we're gonna get started in what's called an easy seated posture tonight. So for me, I like to sit in a cross-legged position, and I'm sitting up on a blanket. I like to have a little bit of elevation of my hips. And I also, when I'm sitting up on a blanket, I can start to feel this sort of forward tilt in my pelvis, that I start to lean somewhat forward. So you can kind of see my hips are a little bit higher than my knees. So you want to be somewhere in between, but also somewhere that's comfortable for you. And when you're ready, you can either close your eyes or maybe just gaze down towards the floor, maybe about a foot or so out in front of you, and see as much as you can begin to notice the rise and fall of your chest on your breaths in and out. Noticing perhaps on your next inhale, you can feel yourself sit a little bit taller. Maybe on your exhales, you can feel a sense of release. Continuing to breathe in and out through your nose or your mouth. Just finding a space where you can just simply come to an easy, mindful breath work. Regardless of whatever's happening around you, just allow your breath to float in and out, regardless of whatever is going on. And we'll take just about a few more rounds of breath, so maybe between 3 to 4 rounds of breath as we're seated here, trying to focus inward, regardless of whatever is happening around you. Again, maybe you have children, animals, spouse. They could have dropped something in the background and startled you. They could be striving for your attention. Whatever is going on, use this opportunity here to draw your awareness inward. And when I say cycles of breath, that means an inhale and exhale as one cycle of breath. So making sure that those are long, even, and full. Breath in, breath out. And then begin to flutter your eyes open if they aren't already. Take a deep breath in. And as you exhale, we're going to begin to twist off towards the left. So we're just going to start to turn our towards the right, We're going to twist off towards the right. Bring our left hand onto your right thigh, turning your torso and your chest off to the right. You might stay here. You might come up onto your fingertips outside of your right hip. But we're just keeping a nice long spine here. Try not to force yourself all the way to the right. So you might be here. You might be here. We're just doing an easy spinal twist. There's no need to really draw your chest over to the right, just as long as you're maintaining length in your spine, seated nice and tall. As you take your next breath in, slowly begin to unwind, coming back to center. As you do that though, start to feel that your body naturally wants to twist off to the left. So as you exhale, begin to twist off to the left. This time, bring your right hand to your left thigh, using that as a guide again, but we're not forcing ourselves to come into this twist. We're still pretty early on in our practice tonight. You can bring your left fingertips maybe into the outside of your left hip. You might look off towards your left. Again, you might be here. This might be your twist. This is as far as you can go, and that's okay. But again, we're not forcing ourselves to come into this crazy, complicated twist. Not necessary here. We're just opening through our chest and easing our body, our spine especially, into movements. When you take your next breath in, slowly turn back towards center, so having yourself facing forward. Begin to bring your right hand to the outside of your right hip. If you have the space to put your palm flat on the mat, feel free. If you need to tent up onto your fingertips, that's okay too. So somewhere outside of your right hip, have your right hand, and then extend your left arm up towards the ceiling. So you start to feel this nice length all along the left side of your body. Now keep yourself rooted. You can see I'm sort of wiggling back and forth here. Underneath the fleshy part of our bum, we have these two bony parts, and those are called our sits bones. We want to keep these connected to the mat as we start to stretch off towards the right. So keeping your left arm extended up towards the ceiling, right fingertips either tented up or palm down on the mat. Keep your sits bones as two knobby points underneath the fleshy part of your bum connected to the mat, and begin to walk your right fingertips over towards the right as you stretch your left arm up and over to the right. Again, keeping everything from your hips down in the same plane, so nothing about the hips or lower have changed. So just stretching and breathing. Keeping your chest open towards the front of the room. When you take your next breath in, walk your right fingertips up towards your right hip. Release your left hand down to outside of your left hip this time. And then begin to extend your right arm up towards the ceiling. So we're just moving off to the other side. Take a full breath in. Full breath out. Keeping your two sits bones connected to the mat. Take another inhale. As you exhale, walk your left fingertips off towards the left as your right arm stretches up and over to the left. Stopping where you can't go anymore, but the sits bones, your sits bones are still connected to the mat. So nothing about the lower half of your body has changed. We're just stretching off in this lateral stretch to the left this time. Keeping your chest open to the center of the room, the front of your room. Take a deep breath in. Walk your left fingertips back towards your left hip. Release your right hand down, and then begin to make your way into a tabletop position on hands and knees. If you need padding, feel free to use a towel or a blanket underneath your knees for support. And if you have an extra towel or a pillow or bolster-like object, just have that within reach. We're going to play with that in just a moment. So just make sure you have your props within a space that you can grab them in just a moment. So once you come onto hands and knees, your knees and hips are more or less in line. And then most of us tend to have our wrists right underneath our shoulders, but walk your wrists slightly ahead of your shoulders. For me, I like to have them about a handprint in front of my shoulders. If you need to go a little bit further, feel free. And if you were here last week, I talked a lot about making sure that your fingers are spread really, really wide. So like really spreading wide. And for a lot of us, we tend to put so much emphasis and pressure into the heel of our palm. And that's where, if you have issues with carpal tunnel, this can actually be really painful. So you really want to spread your fingers wide and really press down through the knuckle ridges of each finger. So if you're here in your tabletop position, spread your fingers wide and then lift your wrists off the mat. So imagine that we don't have our wrists to rely on here. It's that kind of pressure, that kind of support that we're using and pressing down through the finger, knuckle ridges of each finger that is supporting you. So then you can place your wrist down and notice what a difference that makes. So from our tabletop position, on your inhale, begin to allow your belly to float towards the mat. So you're allowing your belly to float towards the mat, and then your chest starts to shine forward through your shoulders. As you do that, you start to feel this arching through your back. Your gaze might lift just slightly, but try not to yank your head back. On your next exhale, begin to press down through your fingertips and then round through your upper back as you tuck your chin in towards your chest. So we're rounding through our upper back. And this is known as our cat and cow movement. On your inhale, allow your belly to float towards the mat as your gaze lifts, arching through your spine. As you exhale, press down through your finger pads, draw your belly button in towards your spine, chin tucks in, round through your upper back. Inhale, arching your spine. Exhale, rounding through your spine. So linking your breath to movement. Let's do this a couple more times, but on our own, following your breath. Your inhale, draw your belly towards your mat as your gaze lifts, arching through your spine. Your exhale, draw your belly button in towards your spine, round through your upper back, press down through the knuckle ridges of each finger. One more time, your inhale to arch. Your exhale to round. On your next inhale, come back to a neutral tabletop to all fours. The spine is in a neutral position. And then just kind of sit up. Maybe you just sit back on your heels and then shake out your wrists. Maybe just flick with the wrists. You might even clench your hands into fists and then open them. Great. So now is where we're going to want our prop. You can use a pillow, rolled up towel, a bolster if you have it, a couch cushion. And we're going to practice our Chaturanga. So a Chaturanga is a four-limbed staff pose in yoga. And often you'll hear this in a lot of flow type classes where the instructor will guide you through a vinyasa and will say, okay, now step back, plank, chaturanga, up dog, down dog, etc. And so when we're learning basics, when we're doing a basics course, we want to practice the lowering down into a chaturanga. So we're going to use our prop underneath our chest to help us, to catch us, to guide us as we practice this. So have your bolster, your prop, your pillow in front of your mat. And then come back into your tabletop position. So we'll practice this a few times. Walk your wrists slightly ahead of your shoulders. Have your fingers spread really wide. From here, begin to shift your hips forward so you can draw your shoulders slightly ahead of your wrists. Now, as you do that, begin to bend into your elbows and hug your elbows along your rib cage, and then catch yourself onto your bolster, your prop, your pillow. Press through your fingertips, lift up, straighten through your elbows. Come back to your tabletop position. We'll do that about 4 more times. So, when you're ready, shift your hips forward, draw your shoulders ahead of your wrists. Hug your elbows into your rib cage, bend into your elbows, and lower down to your prop. On your inhale, press back up, shift back, tabletop. 3 more times. You've got this. Just breathe, follow a breath pattern. Inhale and exhale. Shift your hips forward on your inhale. Shoulders are slightly ahead of the wrists. Hug your elbows in, lower on your exhale. Inhale, press through your fingers and your palms, straighten through your elbows, come back to your tabletop. 3 more times, just like that. Maybe we're on 2 more. Let's do 3 more because I lost count. So inhale, shift your hips forward. Exhale, hug your elbows in and lower halfway down onto your prop. Inhale, press yourself up. Come back to your tabletop on your exhale. All right, inhale, forward. Exhale, bend into your elbows, lower onto your prop. Inhale, press up, straighten through your elbows. Exhale, back to tabletop. All right, now I really did lose count. Let's just do 1 more. Inhale, shift your hips forward. Hug your elbows in and lower halfway down onto your prop on your exhale. Inhale, press through your palms, straighten through your elbows, and shift back to your tabletop. All right, sit up onto your shins, and let's shake out our wrists once again. Clench your hands into a fist, let them go, and just give yourself a little bit of a wiggle. All right, so we're going to practice this without our prop, okay? So move your prop out, and we'll get a little bit of a flow going. So coming into a tabletop position, again, remembering to have your wrists slightly ahead of your shoulders, fingers spread wide. Begin to tuck your toes. We're going to press through all 10 toes, press down through our palms, begin to lift our knees, and then shift our hips back to our downward facing dog. Remembering to keep our fingers spread really wide, maybe take a glance at how your hands are doing, noticing what's going on. And another tip while you're in downward facing dog is if your hands are too close to one another, draw them out towards the edges of your mat or whatever thing that you're using to practice on tonight. So you can have really spread, really wide hands here. There's nothing that says that your hands have to stay on the mat. And your heels are trying to come towards the mat, but they might not touch. And maybe you have a generous bend in your knees. You can begin to bend one knee and then the other. Maybe softly pedaling through the feet back and forth. Finding a breath pattern. Maybe it's an inhale through your nose. Maybe an exhale through your nose. And then maybe do 1 or 2 more pedals through your feet, drawing your heels closer to your mat. And then we'll come into stillness in our down dog. So we're going to build up a little bit of a flow. Just follow your breath. I might move faster, I might move slower than you, and that's okay. Just follow your breath. On your inhale, begin to come up onto your tippy toes. Bend your knees, and we're going to lower our knees down to our mat. Going back to a tabletop position. Untuck your toes, press the tops of your feet into the mat. Slide your shoulders forward of your wrists as you start to shift your hips forward. Begin to bend into your elbows, hug your elbows in, and we're going to lower all the way down to our bellies, keeping your elbows hugged in. Keeping your elbows hugged in, press the tops of your feet into the mat, and then as lightly as you can be on your palms, just begin to start to lift your chest. Maybe you're here, maybe you're here. We're coming towards what's known as a baby cobra. And your gaze is looking out in front of you. Keeping the tops of your feet pressed into the mat. And then lower your belly back down to the mat. Keep your elbows hugged in. You're still grazing your elbows with your rib cage. Press down through your fingers, through your palms. Begin to press through your palms, straighten through your elbows, come up on to your knees. We'll tuck our toes, lift our hips, come back into downward facing dog. Take a deep breath in. Deep breath out. On your next inhale, begin to come up onto your tippy toes. Bend your knees, lower your knees to the mat. Untuck your toes. We're going to shift our hips forward, draw our shoulders slightly ahead of our wrists. Hug your elbows in and lower all the way down to your mat, keeping your elbows tucked in. Press the tops of your feet into your mat. Become light on your fingertips. You're not using your fingertips, and if it helps, you might even lift your fingertips off the mat. On your inhale, maybe you start to engage through your back body, lifting your chest. Gaze is still looking forward. As you exhale, slowly lower back down to your belly. Press down through your palms. Keep your elbows tucked in. Press down through your hands, press up, straighten through your elbows, come up onto your hands and knees. Tuck your toes, lift your hips, downward facing dog. All right, we'll do that flow one more time. Take a deep breath in, deep breath out. On your next inhale, come up onto your tippy toes, bend your knees generously, lower your knees to the mat, untuck your toes, shift your hips forward as your shoulders come slightly ahead of your wrists. Hug your elbows in, grazing your rib cage, slide all the way down to your mat. Keep your elbows tucked in. Press the tops of your feet into the mat behind you. Again, keeping your elbows tucked in, become light on your fingertips, light on your palm. Engage your back body, your shoulders drawing in towards one another. Lift your chest. As you exhale, begin to lower onto your belly. Keep your elbows tucked in. Press down through your fingers. Press through your palms, straighten through your elbows, come up onto your knees. We'll tuck our toes, lift our hips, come into downward facing dog. From your downward facing dog, you might start to notice, oh, maybe my heels are starting to come closer to the mat. Maybe not. And then begin to come up onto your tippy toes, bend your knees, and then start to walk your feet towards your hands, coming towards what's known as a standing forward fold towards the top of your mat. Your belly can drape over your thighs. You can have a really deep bend in your knees. When you're here, you might just stay in stillness. You might grab opposite elbows. You might sway softly side to side. If it feels good, you might bend both knees and really bring your belly close to your thighs. You might straighten. Take your head out, yes and no. Continuing to breathe in and out. If you're holding on to opposite elbows, or if you're taking any movement, start to release your hands towards the mat, coming into stillness in our standing forward fold. You can always keep a bend in your knees. On our next inhale, begin to bring your palms up to your shins, your knees, or your thighs as you start to have an extension of your chest forwards. We're making this L-like shape with our bodies. Gaze is looking sort of forward and down towards the floor. So we're not forcing the neck back and we're not tucking the chin in, somewhere in between. As you exhale, begin to slide your hands back down and come to your forward fold. On your inhale, come up to your halfway lift. Make that L shape, hands to shins, knees, or thighs, or blocks if you have them. As you exhale, slide back down to your forward fold. We'll do that halfway lift one more time. Inhale, halfway lift. As you exhale, begin to hinge and fold forward. We're going to start to make our way towards standing. So root down through both soles of your feet to be steady here. Begin to draw your arms out to a T, so away from your body. As you start to do that, start to notice that your shoulder blades want to come towards the center of your back, and use that leverage of drawing your arms out as you come to standing up, and then bring your arms up over your head. And then as you exhale, bring your hands down by your side, stand tall in mountain pose or Tadasana. All right, so we'll do our half sun salutation a couple of times just to get our bodies a little bit warmer, a little bit more acclimated to the standing sequence. On your next inhale, bring your arms out and up towards the ceiling. As you exhale, draw your hands back down to your sides and then begin to fold forward, hinging at your hips. Coming right back down to your forward fold. Inhale, rise up to your halfway lift, what we just did a moment ago. Exhale, slide back down to your forward fold. On your inhale, draw your arms out to a T, draw your shoulder blades together, use that leverage to help stand you all the way up as your arms extend up overhead. And then exhale, bring your hands down by your side, stand tall, Tadasana. Inhaling your arms out and up towards the ceiling. We're linking breath with movement. If you go slower or faster, that's okay, just follow your breath. Exhale, begin to hinge and fold forward. Coming right back down to your forward fold. Inhale, lift halfway. Exhale, fold. On your inhale, bring your arms out and up towards the ceiling. And then exhale, Tadasana. All right, we'll do that 2 more times. This next one we'll do together, and then our 4th one you'll do on your own, following your breath, your movement. So together, on our inhale, bring your arms out and up towards the ceiling. As you exhale, dive forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. On your inhale, bring your arms out and up as you rise to stand tall. Arms extend up overhead. And then exhale, Tadasana. All right, so we'll do that 1 more time on our own breath. You can follow along with me. I'm not going to cue any inhales or exhales, but follow your breath, and we'll come back to standing tall into Tadasana. But if you want to follow along with me, you'll probably hear me take an inhale and exhale, make them pretty audible. When you're ready, you can begin your half sun salutation. Again, linking breath with movement. Going at your own pace. And when you're ready, coming back to Tadasana. Great. So once you're back into Tadasana, we're going to play around with a couple of standing balances. So it would be really important for you to have blocks or some sort of wall or something for support for your hands. We are going to play with a couple of standing balance sequences. So just have them within reach. Begin to bring your hands to heart center, bringing your thumbs to embrace your chest. We're going to keep our left foot forward, and we're going to begin to step our right foot back behind us and spin your right heel down about a 45-degree angle. So we're going to make our way towards what's known as a Warrior 1 or Virabhadrasana 1. So making sure that your right heel is spun down so it's flat on the mat. Take a notice once you step your right foot back. Do you feel like your legs, do you look like your legs are in tightrope or railroad tracks? If you're in a tightrope, my recommendation is to walk your left foot to the left side of your mat and your right foot to the right side of your mat. That'll allow this space so your hips will be, in this instance, are facing diagonally towards the right, but your torso, you can turn your torso forward. So your hips are not squaring. It can't when your legs are doing 2 separate things, but your torso is turning forward. So your hips are still facing to the right. Once your feet are stable, if you would like to, you can inhale your arms all the way up towards the ceiling. And noticing where your weight is, I'm over-exaggerating this so you can kind of see, but you want to really shift your weight into the outer edge of your right foot. And again, I'm over-exaggerating, so I'm like lifting the inner sole of my right foot so I can really roll into the outer edge. But it's the action of rolling into the outer edge of your back foot, your right foot in this instance, that's going to help keep you stable here as you start to bend into your left knee, drawing your knee somewhere around the line of where your ankle is. It might not be 100% stacked, but somewhere in that general vicinity. And we're lifting our arms up, if that's comfortable on your shoulders. And breathing, just inhaling and exhaling. Seeing maybe if you can seal your lips and just take your inhales and exhales through your nose. Feeling this strong, stable warrior one. And even if you're like, Casey, you're silly. I'm not stable here. That's okay. You don't have to be completely still. It means that if you wanted to go into another posture from here, you could take off into lifting your heel. You could take off running. You're stable and strong here, even if you're wobbly. Still breathing in and breathing out. On your next inhale, begin to bring your palms together at your heart center. Have your thumbs embracing your chest. From here, we're going to lift our right heel, so we're coming to the ball of our right foot. You can leave your hands at heart center. You can always bring them to your hips. And we're just going to step our right foot forward to meet our left. Take a deep breath in here. Deep breath out. Bring your hands to heart center. We're going to keep our right foot forward this time. Begin to step your left foot back. Spin your left heel down about 45 degrees. Roll into the outer edge of your left foot. And again, take a notice. Okay, am I in a tightrope? Do I feel a little wobbly? Should I walk my feet out to the opposite sides of the mat? Right foot towards the right side, left foot towards the left. This time our hips are pointing diagonally towards the left, but we're turning our torso forward. So drawing our torso forward. There's a little bit of a twist action, right? Remember when we were twisting in our seated twist? Right, so we're sort of doing that here. We're twisting our torso forward, hips pointing towards the left. If you'd like, you can bring your arms up towards the ceiling, pressing down through the outer edge of your left foot as you start to bend into your right knee, bringing your right knee just about more or less in line with the ankle. Maybe it's slightly behind, maybe it's slightly forward, but try not to draw your knee super forward of your toes, so somewhere in between. And breathe, feeling length and strength. Maybe take a deep breath in through your nose, filling your body with as much air as you can take in. And exhale through your nose. Take another deep breath in. Deep breath out. On your next inhale, begin to bring your palms towards one another. Bring your thumbs towards your chest, so hands at heart center. Begin to shift your weight so you can lift your left heel. So we're shifting forward over the right leg a little bit. And then you can bring your hands to your hips if you'd like. We're just going to step our left foot forward to meet our right. Come back to our standing mountain pose, our Tadasana. Remember our half sun salutation? Let's take one of those together while we're here. On your inhale, bring your arms out and up towards the ceiling. As you exhale, begin to draw your arms out to the side and forward fold. Inhale, come halfway towards your L-like shape, your halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale your arms out and up as you rise to stand tall. And then exhale, Tadasana, mountain pose. Okay, so we're going to do 2 standing balances. Again, you can always come to a wall. You can use your hands on a wall. I'll show you how to do that. If you don't have any props, a wall is great to use. You can always leave your hands on the floor. And you can always bring your hands to blocks, books, water bottles, something that you can leave your hands on. So I will show you from a block perspective, and then I'll walk you through a wall perspective. So we're going to come to a supported warrior 3. We will do this a couple of times. I think we have enough time to do this a couple of times. If the second round you're like, I got this, I don't need this, you can come into a warrior 3 unsupported. But because this is basics, I'm going to teach you how to do it supported. So if you're like me, have your props out in front of you. Again, if you have blocks, books, etc., have them out in front of you. If you have a wall, I'll walk you through that in just a moment. If you have props out in front of you, bring your arms out and up towards the ceiling. So almost like we're coming towards that half sun salutation, or Ardha Surya Namaskar. As you exhale, begin to hinge and fold, coming to a forward fold. From your forward fold, if you have blocks or props, bring your hands to your blocks or props. And then you're going to lift your chest about halfway. So like we're in our standing forward fold. And I took a pretty short stance, so I decided I'm going to step my feet back about a foot or so, maybe about a foot and a half, almost 2 feet away. So that's comfortable for me. You feel free to keep your legs right where they are. Again, this is if you have props. If you have the space, you want to leave your hands on the mat, and you have that space to forward fold and not to lock through your knees, feel free to just leave your hands on the mat. I'll walk you through using a wall if you need that. So coming towards this halfway lift in a prop, hands are supported. We're going to keep our left foot down, and then press down through your left foot, and then begin to slide your right toes back behind you. Maybe they lift higher and higher. Maybe you begin to flex through your right toes and breathe. So this is your supported warrior 3 with props. If you need a wall, I'm going to show you from backwards, but you would bring your hands to a wall, walk your feet back. We're keeping our left foot, so walk your hands down the wall almost like a halfway lift. We're going to keep the left foot flat, and then you would extend the right leg back. So that's how you would use a wall. So prop or wall, we're keeping our hands supported, keeping our right leg lifted. So breathe in and breathe out. Our chest is still halfway lifted. You feel the wobbliness of your left foot, and maybe your hands are like, what the heck is happening here, as you're supporting them out either on the wall or props. And then softly lower your right foot to the mat. And then lower yourself to your forward fold. Release your hands from the wall or your props. Then begin to bring your hands to the wall or your props. Come to that halfway lift. We're going to press down through our right foot this time, keeping our hands supported. And then slide your left toes back. Maybe they lift just slightly. Maybe you can begin to lift. Maybe you're coming towards that more warrior 3-like variation if you know what that looks like. Taking a deep breath in, continuing to breathe, no matter whatever the challenge of the posture is, right? We're still breathing. So breathing in and breathing out, so important. Through challenging postures, through challenging moments, through that 5 o'clock email from your boss if you work a regular 9 to 5, or more traditional 9 to 5. Breathe in, breathe out. Begin to slide your left foot to meet your right, drawing it back down to your mat, and then begin to forward fold. If you're at the wall, begin to make your way back towards a forward fold. On your next inhale, we'll slide our palms up to meet shins, knees, or thighs, come to our halfway lift. As you exhale, begin to fold right back down. On your inhale, bring your arms out and up. Draw your shoulder blades towards the center to come all the way up. And then exhale your hands down by your side. Stand tall, Tadasana. All right, we're going to come back to that in just a moment. We're going to do one more standing balance in between that first variation of our Warrior 3 and our second one. So we're going to come to a tree pose. A tree pose, you might know, is synonymous with a fairly easy, very standard balance posture, standing balance posture. It's not always 100% easy. Even as a yoga teacher, I often fall out of it and come right back in. Just continue to breathe. Whatever variation you're taking today as we guide ourselves through this, just continue to breathe. Again, if you have a wall, come up to a wall. You might even bring your hand to a wall. If you have the space, you might even bring your back up to a wall. You can use all sorts of options that you have in your house to keep you supported. I'm going to teach it without the wall. If you need a wall, come to this. The other recommendation is to come off your mat. Sometimes our feet can get really sweaty when we're practicing, and so sometimes being on our mat, we can slip and slide. I'm going to teach it from the mat, but know that these are your options if you have these available to you. Off the mat, up against a wall. Begin to bring your hands to heart center. So drawing your thumbs in towards your chest. We're going to keep our left foot down on the mat. Begin to bend into your right knee as you lift your right heel. So we're coming to the ball of our right foot. Begin to pivot your right toes so they face the right side of your mat as your right knee begins to draw out towards the right side of your mat. Then begin to slide your right foot to hover over your left ankle. Keep your right toes down on the mat or down on the floor, wherever you're taking your tree pose. This is a tree pose. Already here, I can start to feel that my legs are starting to try to adjust, like what's happening? So you might start to feel this sort of sensation too. Root down through your left foot and breathe. Draw your palms in towards your center. If you're keeping your foot down, your big toes, your right big toe down, right toes down, remember to draw your foot around your ankle. So you're drawing everything in towards the center of gravity, right? So if we keep everything here, we're hugging everything in, we're nice and stable. We're as stable as we can be. If you're like, I need a little bit more challenge, begin to slide your right foot up the inside of your left thigh. Again, we're drawing everything in towards the center. So actively press your right foot into your left inner thigh as you actively press your left inner thigh into your right foot. So draw everything in towards the center. Draw your hands to heart center and breathe. And if you have to tap down, tap down. Tap your toes down. There's nothing wrong with that. I needed to. That's why I said do that. Then just come back up. Maybe you start here with your right toes down. Maybe you come here. We'll take about 1 to 2 more breaths in our tree pose. If you need the wall, just come right up against the wall. If you have the space, and here's your tree pose. You can always use your hand. We'll do the left hand so you can see from this side. Here's your tree pose. These are all tree poses. When you are ready, begin to slide your right foot down and shake out your left foot, your right foot, your right hand, your left hand, shake it out. There's a lot of tension that we hold when we're holding our standing postures or postures in general in yoga pose or even in any sort of fitness pose, and our tension starts to radiate. So it starts from our left leg for this side, will start to radiate through our entire body, so shake it out. Shake it out. You probably felt something in your shoulders and things creeping up into your neck. Everything's connected through our bodies, so shake it out. Let it go. Begin to come back to standing. Bring your hands to heart center once again. Keep your right foot flat on the mat. And then begin to peel up your left heel, coming to the ball of your left foot. You might stay here. This might be your tree pose tonight. If you want, begin to rotate your left knee towards the left side of your mat, so it's facing towards the left. And maybe you begin to bring the sole of your left foot around your right inner ankle, the right inner part of your ankle. The inner part of your right ankle, that's the word, that's the verbiage. This might be your yoga posture, your tree pose tonight. Drawing everything in towards center. And a lot of us tend to be right dominated, so notice maybe this side's not as wobbly, or maybe it's even more wobbly. There's nothing wrong with that, just nice little nugget of information for later. If you want to, maybe slide the sole of your left foot up the inner right thigh. Again, we're drawing everything in towards the center, so draw the left foot into the right inner thigh. Hands are still at heart center. And breathe. Breathing in and breathing out. See if you can unclench your jaw. See if you can take a deep breath in. Deep breath out. Always tap down as you need to. And then come right back up. Take one more inhale. One more exhale. Release your left foot down. Shake out your whole body. Shake out your hands, shake out your legs, shrug your shoulders up towards your ears and let them go. All right, we're gonna do our warrior 3 variation once again, and then we'll come down towards the mat and finish out our practice. So coming back towards your props or your wall, whatever you need for your hands. I will give you an option if you'd like to try to practice lifting one arm or the other. If you are not familiar with that, just keep your hands down to keep yourself supported until you're ready for that. So standing tall in our nice tall Savasana. Bring your arms out and up towards the ceiling. As you exhale, begin to forward fold. On your inhale, slide to halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Begin to walk your hands to your props. If you need your wall, come up to your wall. We're going to have this nice halfway lift here. We're going to keep our left foot flat on the mat. If you're taking this variation, if you're taking the wall variation, keep your left foot flat and then slide your right toes back, lifting your right leg as high as you'd like to go. Again, we're flexing through our right foot. So even if your right toes are just barely off the mat, that's a great warrior 3. Stay there. Don't try to force yourself into lifting your leg up if it's just not going to get there tonight. And that's okay. Maybe my leg's here. Maybe it's all the way up here. Just breathe. If you want to try, you feel supported enough and you want to try this, maybe you put your weight into your left hand. Put your weight into your right hand. We'll start with the left arm first. Put the weight into your right hand and lift your left hand off the block or the wall. If you're at the wall, maybe draw your left hand behind you towards your left hip. Release your left hand down. Maybe you try lifting the right arm. It might be a little too much because you have the right leg lifted, but you might lift it and bring it back down. We'll slide our right foot forward. And then exhale, forward fold. Inhale, come halfway up. Your half lift. Exhale, fold. Bring your hands to your wall or your prop blocks. Going towards that modified halfway lift. We're going to keep our right foot flat on the mat or the floor, and then begin to draw your left toes along the mat, lifting your left leg. And breathe in and out. If you want to try lifting one hand, let's start by rooting down through our left hand this time. And if you want, maybe extend your right arm away from your block. If you're at the wall, maybe your right arm comes back by your right hip. Maybe you release your right hand. It's kind of awkward, but maybe you try to lift your left. And then bringing your left hand back down, slide your left toes forward to meet your right. And then begin to fold forward into a forward fold. If you're still at the wall, make your way towards your forward fold. Bring your hands down to the mat. Maybe you need to bend into your knees. And then we'll step one knee back, then the other. So coming towards a tabletop position. And then begin to make your way onto your backs. So coming onto your back, having the soles of both of your feet flat on the mat, knees pointing towards the ceiling. The back of your head pressing into the mat. Maybe your arms are spread towards a wide V. Just allowing your shoulders to roll into the mat. And then begin to walk your feet to each side of your mat. So your left foot's towards the left part of your mat, your right foot's towards your right part of your mat. And then slowly begin to draw your knees in towards one another. And once they're next to each other, begin to windshield wiper towards the right and towards the left. So you're drawing your knees towards the right and the left. So if you draw your knees towards the right, your left knee comes towards the inner part of your right knee as your right knee drifts out, and then vice versa. And the next time that your knees drift off to the right, we'll stay there for just a moment. Your knees might be sort of lifted off the floor. Just keep your shoulder on the mat towards this spinal twist variation. On your next inhale, draw your knees back up towards the ceiling. And then we'll twist them off to the left, so allowing them to lower towards the left, coming towards a modified spinal twist. Slowly begin to draw both knees back towards the ceiling, bringing the soles of your feet flat to the mat. And then walk your feet in just slightly so your feet are a little bit closer together. Maybe your inner thighs are touching. And then begin to gather both of your knees in towards your chest. So maybe you're just lifting them towards your chest. Try to keep your lower back flat on the mat. You might hold on to the tops of your knees or shins. You might even hold on to the backs of your knees. And maybe you give your low back a little bit of a wiggle by rocking softly side to side. Maybe you keep your left knee in, and maybe you straighten your right leg towards the ceiling. You can point your toes towards the ceiling. You can point your toes towards your shin. Your legs don't need to be straight here. You can have a bent knee if you're just trying to get a little bit of a hamstring stretch in your right leg before we come down to our resting pose. Begin to draw your right knee in towards your chest. Begin to extend your left leg up towards the ceiling. Again, bent knee or a straight leg. Point your toes towards the ceiling. Point your toes towards your shin. Maybe go back and forth a couple of times. And then begin to draw your left knee in towards your chest. And begin to slide your feet down to the mat. And our next posture is our Savasana. This is our resting pose. If you are not used to a traditional corpse pose, which is lying flat on your back, this might be an opportunity to grab your pillow or your blanket. You can roll that blanket up if you have one and place it under your knees. You can have a little bit of a lift underneath your knees. Your pillow can be here. If you have any other variation that you'd like to take for your final resting pose, begin to make your way into that now. And our Savasana is a space where we can simply allow our bodies to rest. If that means that you have to keep your eyes open and your mind continues to wander, that's okay. It takes quite a lot of time to get into a practice where you can just immediately come into rest when you come into a Savasana. And maybe you close your eyes. If your eyes are open, maybe you don't focus on anything in particular. Just allow yourself to breathe and simply relish in this quietness that you can give to yourself. Slowly allow your breath to deepen. And maybe you will begin to wiggle through your fingers and your toes. You might circle through your wrists and your ankles. If it feels good, you might even turn your neck side to side. When you're ready, begin to draw both of your knees in towards your chest. Hug them close, and then roll on to one side in a fetal posture. Pausing, giving ourselves this opportunity to get ready to either get ready to go to bed, have dinner, whatever you're going to do after practice, eat breakfast if you're taking this at a different time. Really relishing in this pause here. When you're ready, begin to press through your top hand to help bring you up into a seated position. Bringing your hands to heart center, bringing your thumbs to your chest. Take a deep breath in, deep breath out. Thank you all for practicing with me and each other. The light in me sees and honors the light in each of you. With gratitude, namaste. If you are not a member to Blue Point Yoga, on the screen right now are some deals that we have going on, along with our code for 20% off. Feel free to let us know what questions you have in the comments, or email us at info@bluepointyoga.com. Thank you so much. Take care, everyone. We'll see you next time.